What if I told you that some of the exercises you've been doing faithfully, movements you genuinely believe are keeping you healthy, are actually accelerating the very decline you're trying to prevent? I know that's not easy to hear, but after years of working with older patients, I've seen this pattern more times than I can count. Someone doing everything right, or so they thought, walking regularly, stretching every morning, following along with fitness videos, and still ending up in my office with knee pain that won't resolve, a lower back that keeps flaring up, or a fall that seemed to come out of nowhere. Here's what nobody told them, and what I want to tell you today. When it comes to leg health after a certain age, the wrong movement done consistently is not neutral. It is harmful, and the damage it causes doesn't always announce itself until something serious has already gone wrong. Today, we're going to change that. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. Important warning: medical context setting. Before we get into the exercises, I need to say something that most fitness videos skip over entirely, and I think that's a mistake. What I'm about to share isn't meant to frighten you, but it is meant to be taken seriously. Here's what the research tells us. The strength of your leg muscles is one of the most powerful predictors of how long you'll live and how well you'll live. Not your blood pressure, not your cholesterol numbers, your legs. A study published in the British Medical Journal found that adults over 60 who couldn't maintain basic lower body strength and balance faced dramatically higher risks of hospitalization, loss of mobility, and early death within the following decade. That's not a small finding, that's a wake-up call. Now here's the part that concerns me most as a physician. Many older adults are actively exercising, walking, stretching, following along with fitness videos, and genuinely trying to take care of themselves. But some of the most common movements being recommended for seniors today are actually placing dangerous levels of stress on aging joints, spinal discs, and cartilage that simply cannot absorb that kind of load the way they once could. The body changes after 60. Bone density shifts. Cartilage thins. The discs between your vertebrae lose hydration and resilience. An exercise that felt perfectly fine at 45 may be quietly causing damage at 70. Damage that doesn't always announce itself with immediate pain, but accumulates slowly until one day something gives. That's what today's video is really about. Not just what to do, but what to stop doing before it costs you something you can't get back. Let's start there. So let's start with the one that's been hiding in plain sight the longest. An exercise so familiar, so widely taught, that questioning it almost feels wrong. But the science is clear, and once you understand what it's actually doing to your spine, you won't look at it the same way again. 1. The toe touch. Why this classic stretch is quietly injuring your spine. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you bent forward and reached toward your toes? Maybe first thing in the morning or before a walk around the neighborhood? If that movement is still part of your routine, I want you to hear this carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is something most people were never warned about. The toe touch has been taught as a standard flexibility exercise for decades. It was in gym class. It was in aerobics videos. Your coach probably demonstrated it before every practice, and for a long time, nobody questioned it. But here's what we now understand that we simply didn't back then. When you bend your spine forward and round your lower back under load, even the load of your own upper body weight, you are placing the discs between your vertebrae under a type of pressure they are poorly designed to handle in that position. Think of your spinal discs like small, fluid-filled cushions sitting between each vertebra. When you're young, those cushions are dense, well-hydrated, and resilient. But over time, and this happens gradually without pain, without warning, those discs lose moisture. They become thinner, less forgiving. And when you fold forward and round your lower back the way a toe touch requires, the front of each disc gets compressed while the back wall gets stretched. Done repeatedly, that pattern can push disc material backward toward the nerves. And that is when people start experiencing sharp pain down the leg, numbness in the foot, or a sudden back episode that seems to come out of nowhere. The frustrating part is that it rarely hurts in the moment. You stretch, you feel the pull in your hamstrings, you stand back up and feel fine. The damage is accumulating quietly over months and years until the threshold is crossed. So what should you do instead? Lie flat on your back, loop a towel or a belt around the sole of one foot, keeping your lower back pressed gently into the floor. Slowly straighten that leg upward until you feel a firm but comfortable stretch behind the thigh. Hold it for 20 to 30 seconds. Your spine stays neutral. Your hamstrings still get the stretch they need and nothing is being compressed. That's the damage happening at the top of your spine. But what's happening inside your knee joint is a different story entirely. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. The deep squat, a movement your knees were never designed to handle at this age. Here's something I hear from patients more often than I'd like. They tell me their knees have been aching for months, sometimes longer. And when I ask what kind of exercise they've been doing, the answer almost always includes some version of a squat. Not because squatting is inherently wrong, but because there's a version of it that gets recommended constantly for older adults, and it is doing far more harm than the people recommending it realize. The deep squat, where the hips drop below the level of the knees, places an enormous amount of compressive force directly onto the cartilage inside your knee joint. Biomechanical research has shown that at the lowest point of a deep squat, the pressure on the kneecap alone can reach 7 to 8 times your body weight. For a 160-pound person, that's over half a ton of force concentrated on a surface roughly the size of a silver dollar. When you're 35, that cartilage has enough thickness and resilience to absorb that load repeatedly. But cartilage doesn't regenerate the way muscle does. Once it wears down, it doesn't come back. And by the time most people reach their late 60s or 70s, that protective layer has already thinned considerably, even in people who feel no pain yet. The squat that felt completely manageable 5 years ago may now be grinding against surfaces that have very little cushion left. What makes this particularly difficult to recognize is that cartilage has no nerve supply of its own. It doesn't hurt when it's being damaged. The pain comes later, once the underlying bone becomes involved, and by then the wear has already been happening for a long time. The solution is not to stop squatting entirely. The movement itself is valuable. It strengthens the quadriceps, supports the knees, and helps with the kind of functional strength you need every single day. The correction is depth. Keep the bend in your knees shallow, no lower than a point where your thighs are parallel to the floor, and ideally not even that far. A quarter squat with your back supported against a wall, held for 5 to 8 seconds, activates the right muscles without loading the joint beyond what it can safely handle. And if those 2 surprised you, the third one will make you want to go check your exercise routine tonight. 3. The standing hip kickback. When good intentions compress the wrong vertebra. Of all the exercises I'm going to talk about today, this one troubles me the most. Not because it's the most dangerous in theory, but because it looks so completely harmless. It appears in senior fitness classes across the country. It shows up in physical therapy waiting rooms on printed handout sheets. People do it while holding onto the kitchen counter, feeling productive, feeling like they're doing something good for their body. And in many cases, they have no idea what it's doing to the base of their spine. The standing hip kickback asks you to stand upright and swing one leg behind you, often as high as it will comfortably go. The goal is to strengthen the glutes, and that intention is absolutely correct. Strong glutes matter enormously as we age, but the way this particular movement achieves that goal creates a serious problem for a large number of older adults, and it has everything to do with a condition called spinal stenosis. Spinal stenosis, a narrowing of the spinal canal, affects an estimated 1 in 3 adults over the age of 65 in this country. Many of them have never been formally diagnosed. They may feel occasional stiffness in the lower back, some achiness after standing too long, or a vague discomfort that comes and goes. What they don't realize is that every time they kick that leg backward and upward, they're pushing the lumbar spine into extension, a position that directly compresses the already narrowed spaces where the spinal nerves travel. Done repeatedly, that compression doesn't just cause discomfort. It can trigger nerve irritation, radiating pain down the leg, and in some cases, a significant flare-up that sidelines a person for days or weeks. The glutes can be strengthened effectively without putting the spine in that position at all. Lying face down on a firm surface and simply squeezing the glutes firmly for 5 seconds, then releasing, activates those muscles directly. No spinal compression, no balance risk, no compromise. It's quieter than the kickback. It doesn't look as impressive. But for a spine that's already managing the natural changes of age, quiet and safe is exactly what's needed. So now you know what to stop. But stopping the wrong things is only worth something if you replace them with the right ones. 1. The supported single leg stand. The 10-second test that reveals how fast you're aging. Before I explain how to do this, I want you to try something right now. Stand up, place one hand lightly on the back of a chair, and lift one foot just an inch or two off the floor. Then, carefully, let go. Don't force it. Just notice what happens in the first few seconds. How quickly does your body start searching for stability? How much effort does it take to stay still? That moment of wobble or steadiness tells me more about where your body is right now than almost any number on a lab report. A study published just a few years ago followed thousands of adults between the ages of 51 and 75 and found that those who could not hold a 10-second single-leg balance had an 84% higher risk of death from any cause over the following decade. That number stopped a lot of people in their tracks when it came out. And it should, because balance isn't just about not falling. It reflects the integrated health of your nervous system, your inner ear, your muscle response time, and the communication pathways between your brain and your legs. When those systems start to slip, the single-leg stand is often the first place it shows up. The good news is that balance responds to training faster than almost any other physical capacity. The nervous system is remarkably adaptable, even well into the 70s and 80s, as long as it receives the right kind of consistent input. Here is how to practice this safely and effectively. Stand directly behind a sturdy chair, a dining chair, a kitchen counter, anything solid. Place both hands lightly on the surface in front of you. Shift your weight onto your right foot and lift your left foot just slightly off the ground. Once you feel settled, try easing the pressure from your hands. Not removing them entirely, just reducing how much you're relying on them. Hold for as long as you comfortably can, working toward 10 seconds. Then switch sides. 3 repetitions on each foot twice a day is enough to create real and measurable change within 3 to 4 weeks. Balance is the foundation. But if the muscles that move your legs have been quietly shrinking for years, balance alone won't be enough. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. The seated hamstring lengthener. Undoing the damage that sitting has done to your legs. Most people assume that stiff legs are simply a consequence of getting older. Something to accept, manage around, maybe complain about a little. What they don't realize is that in many cases, the stiffness isn't coming from age itself. It's coming from a chair. Specifically, from the hours spent sitting in one every single day. And what that position does to the muscles running along the back of your thighs over months and years of accumulated tension. The hamstrings, the group of muscles that run from the base of your pelvis down to just below the knee, are designed to work in a lengthened, dynamic state. Walking, climbing stairs, rising from a seat. All of these movements depend on hamstrings that can stretch and contract freely. But when you sit for extended periods, those muscles remain shortened and held under constant passive tension. Over time, they adapt to that shortened position. They essentially forget how to lengthen properly. And when that happens, the pelvis gets pulled backward, the lower back loses its natural curve, the stride shortens, and the risk of both muscle strains and falls increases in ways most people never connect back to their hamstrings. There is a safe and effective way to reverse this, and it requires nothing more than the chair you're already sitting in. Sit toward the front edge of a firm chair, not a soft couch or a recliner. Extend one leg straight out in front of you, resting the heel on the floor. This part matters. Keep your back straight, not rounded. The stretch needs to come from hinging forward at the hip, not from curling the spine. Once your back is tall, lean your upper body forward slowly, just until you feel a gentle, firm pull along the back of the extended thigh. Not pain, not a sharp sensation, a steady, tolerable stretch that you can breathe through comfortably. Hold that position for 20 to 30 seconds. Then sit back upright, rest for a moment, and repeat on the other side. 3 rounds on each leg, morning and evening, is enough. Many people begin to notice a real difference in how freely their legs move within 2 to 3 weeks, not because something dramatic has changed, but because the muscles are finally being given the length they've been denied all day. Flexibility gets you moving, but there's one muscle group that determines whether that movement stays safe, and most people over 60 have already started losing it. 3. The slow glute bridge, rebuilding the muscle group that protects everything else. There is a term used in sports medicine that most people outside of clinical practice have never heard, and once you understand what it means, you'll never think about your daily aches and movement patterns the same way again. It's called gluteal amnesia, and it describes exactly what happens when the largest, most powerful muscle group in the human body gradually forgets how to do its job. The glutes, the muscles that make up the bulk of what you sit on, are not simply there for comfort. They are the central stabilizing force for your entire lower body. Every step you take, every time you rise from a chair, every moment you spend standing on uneven ground, your glutes are supposed to be firing, stabilizing your pelvis, protecting your lower back, and absorbing the load that would otherwise travel straight into your knees and hips. When they weaken and disengage, which happens quietly and steadily in people who spend significant portions of the day seated, the joints above and below them begin to compensate. That compensation is where chronic knee pain originates. It's where lower back stiffness takes root. It's where the small, destabilizing missteps that lead to falls begin. The slow glute bridge is one of the most effective ways to reverse this, and it can be done lying on the floor or on a firm bed with no equipment in under 5 minutes. Lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the surface, positioned roughly hip-width apart. Before you lift anything, press your lower back gently downward and draw your abdominal muscles in slightly. This protects the spine throughout the movement. Now, pressing firmly through both heels, slowly raise your hips upward until your body forms a straight line from your shoulders to your knees. At the top, pause. And this pause is where the real work happens. Consciously squeeze the glutes as firmly as you can and hold for a full 3 to 5 seconds. You should feel the effort concentrated in the back of the hips, not in the lower back. If your back is doing most of the work, your feet are likely positioned too far away. Bring them slightly closer and try again. Lower your hips back down slowly with control. 10 repetitions, 2 sets, 4 to 5 days a week. Within a month, most people notice that walking feels more grounded, standing feels less tiring, and the lower back discomfort that had become so familiar begins quietly to ease. Your legs have been carrying you your entire life. These 3 movements are how you start carrying them back. Final takeaway. Here's what I want you to walk away with today. Not a list, not a set of rules, but a single, honest truth. The way your legs feel 5 years from now will not be determined by luck. It will not be determined entirely by genetics or by what has already happened to your body. It will be shaped in no small part by the decisions you make in the next few weeks, which movements you stop, which ones you replace them with, and whether you give your body the consistency it needs to actually respond. The 3 exercises we talked about avoiding aren't failures. They were taught by well-meaning people who simply didn't have the research we have now. And the 3 movements I showed you aren't miracles. They're medicine. The quiet, unglamorous kind that works precisely because it respects what your body is going through rather than fighting against it. Strong legs protect your balance. Your balance protects your independence. And your independence protects something that no doctor can prescribe. Your ability to live on your own terms, in your own home, doing the things that still matter deeply to you. Start with 1 movement today, just 1. That's enough. Your legs, your future. Why the next 12 months matter more than you think. The body doesn't send formal warnings. It doesn't schedule an appointment or leave a note on your kitchen table. It simply begins to shift, quietly, gradually, in ways that are easy to dismiss until the moment they aren't. What we covered today isn't about perfecting your fitness routine. It's about understanding that the body you're living in right now is operating under different conditions than it was 10 years ago. The margins are narrower, the recovery time is longer, and the consequences of consistently doing the wrong things, or consistently doing nothing, compound in ways that become very difficult to reverse once they've taken hold. But here's what I want you to hold on to. The people who fare best in their 70s and 80s are rarely the ones with the most advantages. They're the ones who paid attention early enough to still make a difference, who replaced one harmful habit with a better one, who chose to understand their body rather than simply hope for the best. 1 year from today, your legs will either be stronger or weaker than they are right now. There is very little middle ground at this stage of life. The direction they go is still in large part yours to decide. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.